Welcome to the Freight Forward podcast with your host, Nicola Hughes.
Hi, I'm Nicola Hughes and welcome to the Freight Forward podcast. Today we'll be talking about participating in the ongoing global e-commerce expansion. I'm joined today by Steve and Harald from WCA eCommerce Solutions Network. Hi Steve, hi Harald. Thank you for joining me today. Can we start with introducing yourselves? Steve, do you want to go first?
Sure. My name's Steve Howard. I'm the Director of Courier Solutions within the WCA eCommerce Solutions Network. I initially came on board with the WCA a few years ago with a different network called the World Parcel Alliance, and it was a network for first and final mile courier companies. Prior to that, prior to coming to work for the WCA, I owned my own delivery company in the US for a little over 33 years. And I was heavily into e-commerce from the late 90s until I sold the business in 2023.
Hello, everybody, and Happy New Year. My name is Harald Oechsner, and I'm taking care of the freight forwarding side and the e-commerce side of the network. My background is in freight forwarding. I've been a logistics guy all my life. I started off in Hong Kong quite some time ago, moved around 4 continents, 12 countries, always in logistics. I joined a few years ago the WCA after I've been for over 20 years a member of the WCA as a freight forwarder. So I know the WCA from both sides, and which helps a lot. You understand the mentality of the WCA as well of the members.
Thanks, guys. In 2025, we saw the amalgamation of your two networks to become WCA eCommerce Solutions, which is what we have now. Can you give us a bit of background about why that happened and why this new amalgamated network is beneficial to all our members?
Sure. So, the World Parcel Alliance was a great network, right? It's courier companies. Without having the e-commerce components of freight forwarders, customs clearance, and the vendors that support the industry, fulfillment centers, things like that, really both networks were not complete. Right. So an e-commerce network, to be a complete e-commerce network, has to be from first to final mile and everything in between. Ownership and management had this idea for years. They finally put it into play a couple of years ago. I was tasked to build the first and final mile side with the intention that ultimately we would merge the two networks together and really have a complete network, which is what we have now. So we have the ability, our members have the ability to move everything through the entire life cycle of a shipment using WCA members.
Yeah, if I can just add, I mean, it was also the members that kind of pushed us into that direction for obvious reasons, as Steve said. I mean, it's not the complete package if the end part or the front end is missing.
That's great. And let's talk a bit about the industry as a whole. So I feel like we've been saying this almost every year for like the past more than 5 years now, over half a decade, that e-commerce is growing. We say that at the beginning of the year, we say we expect to see more e-commerce shipments coming through. Is that ever going to let up? What do you think is happening?
I don't see it letting up. I opened up a courier company in 1990, and in 1999, I opened up an e-commerce company for home deliveries because, the emergence of e-commerce was already taking off in the late 90s. And, back then it was less than 1% of the shipments. But today it accounts for about 25%. That's 1/4 of every delivery that gets done through the e-commerce channels. And it's growing every year. I mean, the percentage of growth of e-commerce is just astounding. But when you look at the percentage of in-person shopping decreasing every year, that's not going to change. and to your point, 5 years ago was COVID, and people didn't have
Yeah.
they either bought online or they didn't buy. And without the first and final mile companies, they couldn't get it delivered. So e-commerce, in many ways, was springboarded because of COVID, and this is not going to ever let down. I mean, unless something drastic happens to the internet, then I don't see that the buying habits are going to change at all.
Well, Nicola, despite the tightening of uh, de minimis and customs enforcements in the US in particular, and Europe is just
Mm.
working on some programs. Um, it's we're still talking about high double-digit increases on a yearly basis. Um, Countries like India, Africa as a continent, and South America is the counterbalance. What other countries are doing in reverse and tightening controls a little bit, other countries are actually opening up. And if you think 50 over 50% of global shoppers are buying right now online. I mean, those are crazy numbers. Um, Nearly 3 billion people are buying e-commerce products. I don't see it stopping anytime soon. And I mean, I tell prospective new members all the time, uh, guys, you don't want to miss out on this part of the logistics world. Yes, it looks kind of complicated, but overall, it is an amazing place to be. Still is.
100%. I'm going to live a little bit of personal experience. I own a second home in Costa Rica,
Oh,
and Amazon came into Costa Rica about 4 years ago and built these massive warehouses, which they never operated. They never put a stick of freight in there. E-commerce was and in some ways still is complicated in Central and South America, but the tide's changing, and the companies that are opening up now are huge. I mention that because when you look at opportunities for our freight forwarding members, okay, one door closes. The US makes it more difficult. We've got to shift our opportunities. Central South America is poised for some tremendous growth. So, we're going to be sponsoring Intermodal this year again. We'd love to see you there. That's a great event. You're going to meet with thousands of companies from Central South America that are looking to expand, and e-commerce is the buzz, right? But you look at countries like Pakistan, who until just recently, the last 2 years, they just opened up e-commerce and they issued a couple licenses. Now they're opening up more and more every day. But when you look at a billion people that had no access to e-commerce just a couple of years ago, this world is not saturated. There is so many emerging countries right now where e-commerce is just getting its legs that it's really the right time to get involved right now.
Yeah. Africa is definitely a place that's up and coming. And as I mentioned before, India, I was just last month at an expo in India, and it was amazing, honestly amazing how everybody was lining up for e-commerce. I've honestly never experienced anything like it. I just wanted to mention that everybody was very upbeat of what the market is doing. They're looking at big increases for this year, and in the process, business develops and becomes stronger and stronger.
Yep, I agree 100%.
obviously, we're in January now, so we've just come to sort of the end of that peak season. Although for China, we're probably just ramping up. Was there any lessons learned, do you think, from the US about peak season this year, or any advice you would give to prospective members or existing members, about how they can better optimize their business for these peak seasons? Because obviously we do, as you say, we're still massively growing. E-commerce isn't going to calm down, but peak season does still ramp up even more. Is there anything particular you think members should be doing to prepare for that?
Well, having lived it for 33 years, and not having had peak the last couple of years, which is a blessing. Um, the lessons learned over the years is predictability. Predictability is key, right? I can remember days when I'd have customers say to me, you can expect a 10 to 15% increase in business. And all I did was heavy, bulky stuff. So things that took up a tremendous amount of space, not only in my warehouse, but in my trucks. And then their business blew up 300%. And when that happens to five or six of your customers, they weren't prepared, we weren't prepared, and the customer experience wasn't good. We got better at it, and with AI today, predictability really is something that has been a human thing for a long time, but I think AI is going to really be able to look at trends and really narrow down what people are willing to buy, what they're going to buy, um, and give us some more accurate numbers. Because at the end of the day, you can scale up or scale down, but it's all about proper predictions. We're just coming out of peak, so we're taping this literally the week after peak season, and in many ways, peak season is still going on because a lot of people buy Christmas Eve here in the U.S. as an example. So all that's just getting delivered now, or is in the pipeline to be delivered now. So peak season used to literally end Christmas Eve. It stretches all the way now till about January 15th. So we're not going to really have all the statistics. Things I've read is, we're up 4 to 5% this year from an e-commerce perspective here in the U.S. But globally, I can't even fathom, because to Harold's point, there are a lot of countries that really are just getting their legs now with e-commerce. They're opening up the warehouses, the fulfillment centers, the things that are necessary to bring product to people quickly. And so, the growth is there, but I'm very curious to see how this past peak season played out.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned predictability, and that was definitely a challenge this year, especially from the political side. Who would have imagined that the de minimis would be cut down like that, that the EU is focusing on it, and that kind of threw a curveball to quite a few members. And when I talk to some members from overseas, they completely stopped traffic coming into the US. They're looking for different markets. But that is the beauty of freight forwarding, the flexibility. If something unpredictable happens, you look for different markets. And I mean, my key message would probably be, don't be scared by policy complexities and infrastructure fragmentation. I mean, all these represent growth for the freight forwarder, that is in the business right now. That's probably the key takeaway from these uncertain times right now.
That's a great point, Harold. I mean, every challenge presents opportunities,
Yeah,
right? You can put your head in the sand and just say, "Well, I'm pulling out," and a few of our members have pulled out. They're not shipping to the U.S. right now.
yeah,
I'm sitting there saying, but there's always ways to work around it. We've all got to work smarter. That's why being a part of organizations like the WCA e-commerce Solutions Network is real important, because we all get together and we talk through these problems. And there's some really smart people in this group. And when you look at how do you face the challenges, what are your plans? Don't put your head in the sand. Have a conversation. Let's figure it out together.
That's great. And another thing, as you said, there's still ample opportunity for growth here. If you were a general freight forwarder, if you were speaking to a general freight forwarder who's always been reticent to join the e-commerce business because that's not been their bread and butter previously, what would you say to them?
Harold, I'm gonna let you take that.
I would approach it in two different ways. I mean, first of all, I would join one of our conferences, because the conferences, especially for those cases, we have set them up. Unlike other WCA conferences, we focus a lot on education. We have guest speakers, we have keynote speakers. we have a wide range of panels that are there to inform and educate our members. And I'm coming back again, if you are on e-commerce websites and notifications, there's virtually every day that you get a notification. This country changed that. This country changed this. There's new policies in place for Mexico, or whatever country you want to pick on right now, and Mexico is not one of them. But so we provide a lot of information there. The other thing what we're doing is we're working on with our academy on a program that educates an educational program, how to start in e-commerce, what to avoid, where to look into. This, I mean, this is just a heads up. It's not finished yet. We're working on it. That is a very intense project, but definitely come to our conferences. You don't have to be in the e-commerce network. So it's kind of, sit in and if you feel, hey, this is something that is interesting to us, then definitely jump in and become a member.
When you think about the movement of freight historically, there's been patterns, right? So somebody orders something, it's manufactured, it's shipped overseas, it's cleared customs, and it's delivered in a normal time frame, whatever that is. So if I'm doing it via ocean, it could be a month. If I'm doing it via air, it could be a couple days. The thing about e-commerce is all set by customer expectation, right? So it's speed to delivery. That's one of the most key things that creates the e-commerce. So I'm buying it now. I could go to the store and I could buy it myself, but I can go online and I have a much wider variety of products to choose from, and I can order it and in many cases have it delivered in less than 2 days, right? And I'm talking specific here in the US. Obviously, it's different for every country. But that speed to delivery, whatever the customer expectation is, that's huge. The next thing is the technology that puts that together, right? So there is some technology that's required to have an e-commerce business, right? Because in the old days, in the movement of freight, most of it was done with phone calls and emails. Phone calls originally, emails as things changed. With the speed to delivery, it all requires technology that connects everybody. So whether you're first mile, middle mile, customs clearance, final mile, you have to be connected in an ecosystem through technology. And with that technology, it gives constant updates to, number one, the end customer, the customer that actually went online and bought it, and to your customer, whether it's a manufacturer, another freight forwarder, it doesn't matter. So the barriers to entry are not all that significant. It really is technology. In many cases, you do need to have some warehouse space because you are going to receive the product. You got to get it out, and you have to have the systems in place to deliver it quickly, pick up quickly, and deliver quickly and accurately. Accurately is the most important thing. Because when you think about this, you buy something online, I don't care what it is, you never talk to anybody unless there's a problem, right? And even then, you're probably not going to talk to anybody. The only time you're ever going to see anybody at all is when that driver shows up at your door, whatever it is that you're delivering. And if that experience is bad because of bad technology or the driver's appearance or just the driver's attitude, he throws the package, he doesn't treat you right, you're probably not going to buy from that vendor again, although the rest of the experience was perfect. So there are some complications with e-commerce, but it's not so daunting that you can't get into it if you already have the relationships. And when you look at our historic WCA members, they have those relationships with the manufacturers, with the retailers. And now you just got to create them with the e-tailers, which is simply just another way of growing your business. It's growing your business opportunities.
I think when you
That's
look at the entire picture, Nicola, is the
yeah.
majority of the freight forwarders that are not in the business, in the e-commerce business,
Mhm.
they look at the entire picture and they're overwhelmed because
Yeah.
they think I need to be able to pick and pack, receiving it, sending it, doing it on the other side. But we actually see a lot of our members are very specialized, like Steve's group.
Mhm.
They are the final mile people. We
Yeah.
have people that are specialized in customs clearance and brokerage, just particularly for e-commerce. We have people that simply deliver to Amazon. So there are so many different areas that covers e-commerce, and there's very few that cover it from beginning to the end.
Mm.
So that scares some novice members that have no idea
Yeah.
how to approach it. But overall, my advice would be, again, come listen, talk to other members. How did they tackle it? And maybe just take a segment of it where you are strong in distribution or in customs brokerage.
Well, yeah, that's the beauty of the network, right? That you have that collaborative approach, that you can find those partnerships to be able to deliver for your end consumer.
I had a conversation with one of our freight forwarding members, a very
Mm.
strong member, recently, and their concern was to Harold's point. How do I do it all? And when I explained,
Yeah.
you really don't need to do all. You don't need to change anything. And I tell my final mile couriers this all the time. You just do what you do. Stay in your lane. Do what you do. Partner up with the right companies, and
Hmm.
seamless end to end as long as you've got the technology in place, because that technology is key, right? If you everybody,
Yeah.
the old days of an email and people duplicating, triplicating the work, it doesn't work in e-commerce. It slows down the process. So as long as you have the technology, which is we have some great vendors within the WCA e-commerce solutions network that can guide you, help you, point you in the right direction. But at the end of the day, if you're a part of that, that opens up a whole lot of new opportunities. So to that company that I was talking to, I said, you've already got the relationships. You're just missing out on a piece of the business that they're not offering it to you right now because you're not saying that you're qualified to do it. But if you forge the right relationships, you could literally turn the switch on in a day or two and create all kinds of additional revenue doing what you already do.
That's great. Harold, have you got any examples from members of success stories?
I mean, to be honest, the thing about the network itself, you generally hear from members when they have issues, and not hearing from them uh, tells me that we're doing well. I mean, the time
Hmm.
I hear from them is when they need specific connections in a country, being hooked up with other members that they can do a particular job. And and generally, we connect our members and see that things work. We get very positive feedbacks right after our conferences. That is the time when the success really comes and shines. When people are extremely happy with conferences and the material they hear, the connections they can make. And I mean, all we have to do is follow our members and see who is joining. As long as we have people joining and not leaving, we're doing something right. But what's your opinion, Steve?
No, I agree with that 100%. I mean, in many ways, Harold and I do play matchmaker. I grew
Hmm.
a business because of the network that I created, right? So I was a
Hmm.
member of many associations here in the US. I was the president of the largest association for final mile carriers. I didn't do that because I wanted to just give back all my time. I did it because I wanted to give back to the community, but I also wanted to grow my network. And so I see a big value in connecting companies. I do personally take a little bit different approach. I'm a little bit more proactive. I'll ask companies, hey, what are your next expansion plans? Where's your pain points? What are you looking to accomplish? And if I have that conversation enough, and I keep good notes, then I can connect company A with company B with company C, and all of a sudden now you've got a whole bunch of business going on. And that's really what I like. I mean, for me, I love the networking aspect of it. I love growing the network, but at the end of the day, I love to hang out at the bar. I know that's where we do most of our business. But I like what comes out of that meeting at the bar is that I know that we're going to start moving product together and we're going to make money together. So there's a real value to what we do, what we provide, and thankfully, almost every day we get opportunities that we can divvy out to our members. So that's a great thing.
Cool. And later this year, you have a conference coming up, which is open to members and non-members. Can you give me some background on that and tell people why should they attend?
It's such an important part of what we do. And I strongly believe the conference is the glue that keeps a network together. When I speak with new members, I always stress, if you don't join the conferences, not only do you lose on business opportunities, but you lose out on the friendships that you make. And friendships ultimately end up maybe not right away, but down the road in business. And again, here I'm talking out of my own experience being a member of the WCA. Now, coming to the conference itself that we have later on this year, it's in Barcelona. It's in June, and from the 6th to the 8th. We packaged it somehow that right after that, there's another e-commerce conference which is called Shop Talk, which is the largest e-commerce conference in Europe. Again, they're not traditionally in freight forwarding, but you have other components there. So if somebody travels all the way from Asia, they can stay 2 days longer and combine two conferences. So again, I would recommend honestly for anybody who is in our network and for people who have the interest of joining, come see what it's all about. I'm 100% convinced once you see the value and what we present there, you will want to be part of this community.
If you want to get your brand, your personal brand out in front of the masses, it's a great opportunity. Just reach out to Harold or myself. We'll have a conversation with you, find out what your expertise is, and we'll fit you in. We're all inclusive, whether you're a member or not. If you've got something to add, we want to bring it in. We want to be the go-to conference for e-commerce. Harold talked about Shop Talk. Shop Talk is a lot for, the companies, the retailers and the e-tailers. That's a lot of what you're going to find there. But we want to participate with those companies, and we want to be where they say we've got to go to this the WCA e-commerce solutions conference because that's where we're going to meet our partners. And no better way. And by the way, we still have a couple sponsorship opportunities available as well. So if you're interested in that, we'd love to have you as a sponsor. It's not expensive, but again, you get your name out in front of the masses for the entire event, and that's important.
Great. Well, thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you very much, Nicola. We appreciate all of your time, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you, Nicola.
Thanks.
It was a pleasure, as always.
Speak to you guys soon. Thank you. Bye.